Hi, my name is Layla Felder. I'm 17 years old and I'm an avid art lover. Come join me as I talk with artists and curators about their art, their processes, and what makes them tick. Because we are in conversation.
A lot of symbols, see that? Love and goodwill, patience and faithfulness. Right? But no one tells you that they get this from Africa.
Right?
Right?
Oh, I've seen this one before a lot, I
Right.
think.
Right.
Yeah. Hi, y'all. So, you guys have been collaborating on this thing called The New Africans, a series called The New Africans. Can you talk me through I guess like the meaning of it and all of the different, because there's a lot happening. Just, yeah, do your thing. Just talk me through it, please. I want to know all the things about everything.
Okay, so after these conversations, we did our first shoot, stumbled on it. Maurice was shooting for his bangles, Mobanga, and at the end of the shoot, he asked me to bring one of the kangas, which is the fabric, East African fabric, and wrap it around the model's waist. So when we did that, she looked like what we had been talking about. So he said, "This is the New African, it's right here." So we went on from there. We started with really simple costuming. So mostly with like bangles and crown and maybe a little body paint and gilding, sometimes sequins on the neck.
Are any of those here?
No, those are not. No, like the ones are very, And because I work with mixed media sculpture, I started looking for different ways of using simple materials to create these costumes. And so they evolved from using fibers and ping pong balls, string to make the costumes. So then I went on a quest always looking for different things that I could adapt to use for costuming.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, did we talk about the idea of it so much?
A little bit, but let's just do a little recap.
Okay, so the New Africans are the descendants of the slaves that were brought, well, the people that were brought and made and put into enslavement due to transatlantic slave trade. The descendants of those people, I consider those people the New Africans. We are calling them the New Africans because it's a distinction between those Africans and the Africans on the continent that have never been enslaved and they've always been there, right? So the difference between everybody else is now their genetics have been mixed, right? Because a lot of times, you're dealing with the slave masters, your grandmother, your mother's being raped, and that's how a lot of us are here. And but even through all of that, when you look at us, it's still hard to tell that we're not just straight from the continent. So that was the connection. Yes, we're Africans, but not exactly like the Africans on the continent. Right? Now, I'm not saying one is better or worse. I'm just saying
the
it
experiences.
tells you the experience and the story of these group of people. So that's how they end up in South America, whether it's Brazil or Suriname or Guyana or the Caribbeans or North America. That's how we end up here, a lot of us. So to me, it was important for us to celebrate the distinction, to celebrate the story. Yes, we have
Perseverance, yeah.
survived it, and a lot of the Africanness comes out subconsciously. So we do things and we don't even realize that comes from Africa, because a lot of times we'll do something or say something. Grace says, "Yo, do you know where that comes from?" No. Oh, it comes from this tribe and they do this and they do that. Oh, okay, I didn't know. This is something we always did. And sometimes she's amazed. I'm amazed that you still have that. After all of this time, you've retained that. So she's amazed sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know it was a thing. It was just something we do. But then we can trace it. We can definitely trace it directly back to Africa. So it can be something simple like
the heart symbol that
Like
you
the
told
heart
me
symbol.
earlier.
Yes.
exactly. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't know that that's straight from Africa. The shape of it and everything, and even the meaning of it. Right?
From from Guyana?
Ghana.
Yes.
Ghana.
Yeah.
Ghana.
Yeah. And so even something like that you see in popular culture now would be the making it rain. When people throw money up in the air, right? So it's usually associated with strippers and strip clubs, right? But it actually comes from a African tradition of approval. So like, let's say you are performing something, right? The Africans, to show their approval, is sometimes they'll ball up money and they throw it at you.
Or
Right.
they'll like put it on your head.
Yes, or they'll stick it on your body.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, so just imagine you're on stage and you're performing a play and people are throwing money at you.
Because they were
It's the same. It's the same.
Or
thing.
is it the same as applause?
It's
even
exactly.
more.
It's a show of approval. So same thing, like you said. You know, I've been at a wedding where they take money and put it on the bride. You know.
Wow.
So yeah.
How many pieces are there in the series?
I mean, there's over 20 something of the mixed media originals, close to 30. And then Grace has, how many sculptures do you have?
I'll say about 20.
Yeah.
These
About-
sculptures
yeah.
or like stuff like those?
Oh no, these.
No,
Yeah.
we're considering these
Yeah.
sculptures.
Because as you know, installed as this piece, it's
Yeah.
it's like an installation, a sculptural piece. So I have about 20 of them. Yeah.
And how long did it take you guys to make all of that?
A couple of years. Okay,
Wow.
A couple of years too. But the shooting of the work, making the images for the work, over a decade.
And it's all different people, right?
All different people.
All
There are
different
about 35 different women
Wow.
with hundreds of images each.
Mm-hmm.
Some
So
of them
even
1,000.
And yeah, some of them 1,000, because you get into a groove
Yeah.
and you just keep hitting, you just keep going. Yeah, yeah.
Are you guys good at like picking just one image, or is it really hard for you?
It is, because there's so many. Sometimes there's so many, but we can whittle it down to like the strongest ones,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to whittle it down even more, edit it down to
Just the one.
at least one or two.
Yeah.
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 For me, picking it, like an image is always the hardest thing because like
Mhm.
there's so like each one
Yes.
sort of has like a beautiful
Yes.
moment, and you
Right.
have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it would take us a while to go through those. So ultimately, it was about what that piece was saying and how it felt with the other pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a way to kind of whittle some pieces out.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they weren't strong; they just didn't fit in to what we wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I mean, I think everybody did a fantastic job at modeling and
They
what they
really
did.
did.
Yeah.
And they made it very difficult because I mean I'm telling you, everybody killed it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like it takes a while because a lot of people are really shy. This is
Yeah.
not what they do.
Yeah.
But once they in that rhythm, Yeah, it's like
It's fire.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very difficult, but what you've seen doesn't even scratch the surface because there's so much,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for each model. There's so much material. Yeah. So you know, like
We could do a whole other exhibition with
Mhm.
another 40 images that look completely different from
Yes,
us.
we could.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And then the next place another 40 because there's so much material.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would definitely go and see those if you made more.
Mhm.
But did you work on multiple at a time, or did you only do one at a time? Like
No,
if you
we work. I work in multiples.
Okay.
I tend to do that. So like, usually I'll have a theme or idea going on. And I may have, you know, 2 or 3 pieces going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It can be more, you know. And sometimes I do it that way to make sure that the works are sort of consistent. I'm not trying to stay in a certain box, but you know, it's easier for me to say, okay, cool. How can we, you know, make sure that this is in that? But so you just do them in multiples.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, nice.
And so, you know, I used to work really fast. I don't work like as fast as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps with speed. So while this is drying, I'm working on this one,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll work on this one. And by the time I'm here, this one's finished drying. I can go back, add the second layer,
Mm-hmm.
and you can keep doing that until it's finished.
And then each one is looking. You're looking at all 3 or 4,
Mhm.
how they're working with each other.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys get to like curate it yourselves in the exhibition, or you did?
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, we end up having to do that.
Yeah.
I think somebody was supposed to, right? Wasn't somebody supposed to do it?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. But you know, with COVID, everything changed. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
we ended up, you know, laying it out
Mm-hmm.
and editing, taking some out. But
Wow.
it was, you know, 'cause the space was limited, and we brought. I'd rather have more than too too
Mhm.
little.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to install it.
Mm-hmm.
It must have been. I mean, I'm sure that must have been stressful, but it also kind of must have been a bit nice, you know, knowing that that it'll be received how you want it to be, and the flow will be how you want it to be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It turned out beautifully in there. What's his name? Who helped us at the museum? I can't think of his name right now. But he really helped us when he got these glass cases that we could put the costume in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is beautiful. It just added another dimension to this multidimensional
Mm-hmm.
installation.
Did you have was there any sound elements in it, or?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? What was happening?
So, this project isn't just mixed media artwork.
Uh-huh.
There's music
Oh.
that accompanies the images.
Mm-hmm.
Because we initially wanted to do a book, and I thought it would be a great idea to, while you're turning the pages, that you can hear the sounds of what I was imagining doing the images, right? So it's like a soundtrack for the book. So we had some of the music playing during the show.
Mm-hmm.
There's film work in there, so there's a couple of performances, and the music in those is original as well. So it was music, the photography, the mixed media,
Mm-hmm.
Sculpture.
the sculpture, creating the language,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. It's a whole world going on. It's not just these paintings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the performance? Like, what was?
So the thing about the models,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I didn't want to call them regular before.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them is super talented on their own. So one is a makeup artist for Hollywood.
Wow.
She's in the same business you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I see her name on stuff all the time. She was on Lovecraft
Wow.
as well. She did
Mom
the makeup.
loves that show.
Yeah, she did
Was
the
it Chantel?
Chantel.
Oh my gosh!
Chantel
Yeah,
was-
you met Chantel when you were filming Tyson's Run.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Chantel is one of the models,
Uh-huh.
right? She didn't make it in this show,
Mm-hmm.
so that was the the thing that kind of hurt me, that we
Yes.
couldn't get everybody in the show because
everybody.
our space got cut down and limited. So some people didn't make this show. But Chantel is definitely one of the models, right? We have professional dancers. We have a mathematician. She's a professor,
He has a PhD.
a PhD, right? We have filmmakers, right? Artists.
Writers.
Yeah, so they're incredible women. So
Mothers.
exactly.
Yeah.
So one of them, I was like, hey, I want to do this performance. I want to do a dance piece because you're used to be in this group called Giwa Amata. And I love what they was doing, what they were about. They were a drum collective, right? And they did drum and dance. It's a big deal because a lot of cultures, women are banned from playing drums. But Giwa Amata said, forget that. We're going to be an all-female drum group.
Drum and dance.
Drum and dance group. So, so while they're drumming, the other women are dancing. They're doing traditional African dance, right? But even the dancers know how to drum. So sometimes they switch off, And I was like, yo, this is incredible. So one of them, I asked her name is Rashida. Rashida, will you bless us with one of your pieces? And so she says yes. So I said, well, I'm just going to play this music that I created. Just do what you feel. I only have one parameter, if you will. I want it to feel very military. However you want to do that. And so we set up a camera and she did her thing and it turned out beautiful.
Wow.
Really, really beautiful. Yeah.
You both started off in kind of like a commodification part of art, which is kind of interesting because, again, like when you were first going into art, Grace, you were like, I said I was going to study graphic design because then I was going to be able to eat. So and that's the way to do my art. And then you got into this commodification process of art, and then you translated all the way into fine art and making a living in fine art. Like, for people who have kids who are interested in art, can you tell them about what it was like, what your journey was from working to being a full-time artist, only doing that, and the way you sell your art?
Just a whole lot.
Because since we talked about, when I talked to them both, like we
Yes,
talked about the journey,
Right.
so
how we got there.
should we just focus on the business
On the
bit?
business part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the business. Well, starting out, I said that my first one-woman show was at the hotel, the gallery, Imprint Gallery, and so he ended up selling out the work, and from then on, I knew that I would be able to eat for a little bit. I was able to eat working for the big company that paid us $5 an hour. But this way, I would be able to eat based on my own work, supplying him with more work to go with it. And then there was a distributor that was there at that show, and then she started buying work. So there were orders that I would need to fill for her and for him for the gallery. We started showing at Blue Moon Gallery. It was a Midtown gallery, so supplying that the dealers with work. The distributor would also take our work to New York for Art Expo New York, so it got a wider exposure. So working at the first company that we worked at, they taught me about the trade, they had trade shows that they would go to, and they were trade magazines about that part of art. So you could learn about galleries, artists, what people were selling, what was going on the West Coast as opposed to the East Coast, because they were different markets. The Midwest is a different market, and the South is a different market. So you knew about that aspect of it. So one thing that I learned about the business of it was learned at that warehouse job. So it laid the groundwork for how to sell original art, how to make reproductions, how to do limited edition, how to do an open edition, original prints, photography, painting, sculpture. So each one of those has a group of rules, I guess, that go along with that, and how to sell those things. And the fact that they had those markets, those trade shows that were 2 and 3 times a year, so you knew what they were working toward. There was a place, so it wasn't just making a painting and hanging it on the wall and waiting for someone to come in. There was a system of how it worked, which I never knew in art school. It was never taught, even the business part. We didn't even have business classes. We were taught as commercial artists that we were going to work for Turner, the paper, the Journal-Constitution, Coca-Cola. Everybody was trying to work for Coca-Cola, and most of them in the graphic art realm.
And you just decided you just didn't want to do that.
It was not me. It wasn't me. I did work for a t-shirt company while I was in school, doing original designs for their shirts. So that's how I made money while I was in school to pay for my art supplies. Every week we had a new bill based on what media we were using. We had to buy camera equipment. We had to buy, when we did photography classes, we had to buy airbrush machines, compressors, brushes, rapidograph pens. Like every week there were new stuff
New materials you needed.
Yeah, that we had to buy. And paper. Paper was expensive.
Yeah.
Art school is expensive.
Art school is expensive, and the artist student was not a joke. And for a foreign student, our tuition was twice as much.
Oof.
Yeah. They charged us twice for everything.
Huh.
Yeah, but so you go to art school to hone your craft, and then, like you said, to ultimately work for someone else. But you know, when I said I got a new lesson when I started working for that company, they did things like they would always flip through architectural magazines and fashion magazines, and they did that for a reason that I hadn't thought about before. Is they were looking for trends.
And colors.
It could be colors, color schemes. So every year there's a different color scheme. So they're looking at what are the hot colors this year in fashion and everything. And so they would literally come in and say, okay, cool, we're going to use this, and that color.
And they would
The other colors,
they would
they
take
take those colors because it's
so you
like
can't use
it's not in season. So
and then they worked
so you're
with
thinking,
interior designers too.
Right.
And the
Right.
interior designers worked with those colors. So they
Right.
knew that, okay, we have to take that pink out, that we don't use that anymore. Yeah.
right. So yeah, so now you're thinking strategy, right? It's not just doing this painting. And so that taught you, yes, you can sell to a specific market. It wasn't just trying to sell to an individual. You can sell you can go directly to the housing market. It could be, like you said, interior designers.
People who hotel market.
Yeah, so that even like you said, so there's interior designers, you know, to try to do things for their clients, and you have hotels. They're trying to outfit their hotels. Another market that people don't think about, which is in your business, is there's a woman that used to call me. I don't hear from her so much anymore.
Right, but you've been doing.
But I need to
her
find her because
consistently.
I mean, it was always cool. So she worked on set. She was a set designer. So she had become familiar with my work, and she would always call me, hey, I need this or that piece. We're trying to do Tracy's show. What's Tracy?
Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan. So she worked on a lot of his shows.
Yeah.
And
They
so,
just put it on one of his. She just outfitted one of his new shows. The one he did, The Last OG.
the last, yeah. So my
So
work
your
is
work
on
is
the
on
last
there.
OG.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt
Right.
is on there.
Right.
Greenleaf, it's on there.
It's on Greenleaf.
You know, Maurice is very modest, but his work
So-
has consistently been on air for the past 20 years, 25 years.
Right, so that's another
Yes.
market that a lot of times artists don't think about is, and it's not necessarily selling either,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes they're not necessarily buying the work from you. Sometimes they want to get a print. Sometimes I've had movie sets say, can we have the file and we'll print our own piece this size, but we won't print anymore. Okay, cool. So that's a licensing fee, right? So a lot of times artists don't think about that. People don't think about it. There's a whole
world.
a whole nother world
It
of
is.
just having artwork available for film and television.
Yes. I always look at TV shows looking at the art on the wall. Yeah.
So so that's what I'm saying. So when we were younger, we had to think of unconventional ways to make money versus the way people thought you were supposed to make money as an artist.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't always available to us.
Yeah.
Partially because of our us being black, right? Limited who we could go to sometimes, because sometimes they didn't like our art or they didn't understand it or whatever. Being a woman is can be another issue, right? And so
But a lot of times they didn't know I was black.
right, because of her name and
Because my name.
Mhm.
Grace Kisa, they
Grace.
didn't know who
Right.
it was. And so if there were landscapes or abstracts or florals, they didn't know who I was. And they would find out. Remember, we were in Chicago at a trade show. And the lady was looking around. She was like, "Oh my God, it's Grace Kisa," because she saw the sign. "Where is she?" And Maurice was like, "She's right here." The look on her face, she tried to catch herself. But she was like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." Right.
so those are some of the challenges that we would have to face back in the day. So even that is a strategy. So just like the days before when it came to records, they wouldn't put
They wouldn't put a black
certain artists on the
their
cover,
Yeah.
right? So just imagine that in the 90s we're doing the same sort of thing as visual artists. Isn't that crazy?
That it couldn't be black because it's abstract
Right.
Yeah.
or landscape or florals because we do them too.
So you have to think as an artist. It's not just painting
Yeah.
and selling. You have to think strategically. Sometimes, just like we said, it can just be colors because certain colors affect people a certain way.
Yes.
So even that size can be an issue. So like for example, if you're selling in the New York market, more people have small spaces
Yeah.
Small wall
versus
spaces.
big spaces.
Yeah.
In Georgia, people have these huge walls.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they can't-
you start learning those little tricks, where I can send pieces to, because it might not sell based on
the size.
the size and what's happening in that particular city.
Right.
And so, those are the things you have to think about, right? So, it's all business. But what's lovely about now versus back then is you have social media.
Yes.
So I've watched a lot of young artists make a really good living.
Yeah, they create their own lanes. There are no rules.
Right.
Because as long as they make their own mark, have their own audience that will support them, it's all
Yeah.
gravy, really.
Yep. And they'll probably never get a show in the the so-called galleries, high-end galleries, right? But let me tell you how fickle the high-end galleries are. So that artist that you would not show his work, if he becomes popular enough and he sells enough, then you're gonna ask him to come do a show
Literally.
in your gallery.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how fickle things are. That's one of
Just
the things
like,
I don't like about the business.
Right.
But like I said, the advantage of being young now is you can create your own market. You just just put your work out there. It doesn't even have to be great even.
doesn't.
You know what I'm
It
saying?
doesn't.
Yeah.
People
I've-
like,
I've-
they
yeah.
buy, they like, if they like you and they like what it resonates with them, they'll buy it.
I have a bunch of friends my age that just have like Instagram profiles in the bio. They'll say, commissions open for commissions. Send me stuff. Or there'll be accounts that do just exclusively fan art, and they'll make calendars and stickers or keychains,
So
and they'll be like
liberating.
commissions open. This is how much it is, and then they do it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm
That's the
saying.
best
So
part.
so it's even. I'm gonna tell you this right now. It's even more ridiculous, right? So back in our day,
Ridiculous
we
in
actually.
what way?
So back in our day, we actually had to produce a product.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a poster, or we have a friend that went to school with us.
Mm-hmm.
He was a popular skateboard artist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a skateboard guy. I had no idea he was a classmate of mine for a long time. and then find out that he was super famous.
A skateboard.
Skateboard.
Yeah, you go
He
do
was like-
his assignments and all that,
Yeah.
and then have to travel to California to go and,
Yeah.
do the whole loops and all that kind of
Wow.
stuff. Had sponsorship and everything.
I had no idea,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, later,
To stickers, all of
stickers,
that.
everything
Yep.
with his art.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that
it's
was
made
us
great
back
living.
then producing something that's real, right?
Mhm.
So nowadays, you don't have to produce anything per se, right?
Good point.
You don't have to
Have a lot of stock.
catalog. You don't have to
Yes.
have stock.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
you can do prints on demand.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have them available, but they don't
Even
exist.
T-shirts,
right?
On demand.
T-shirts,
Mm-hmm.
books, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to physically exist beforehand.
Yeah.
It's on demand, so that so you don't waste your money on buying a lot of supplies for things. You don't have
Yeah.
stock.
Yeah,
You don't have to pay for
store it.
storage.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much easier. So at this point, you can come up with an idea,
Mm-hmm.
sketch it out,
Mhm.
maybe render it out, put it
Mhm.
online, say it's available.
Mhm.
Put it on a
And
couple
there are
of
companies
sites.
that will
Yep.
fulfill the order for you, ship it
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
for
sorry.
It's okay.
Like on Redbubble, I just thought about that. You know, like artists will put their stuff on laptop cases and decals and water bottles and planner covers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's
I'll have to cut
okay.
that out.
Maurice, can you just talk about selling T-shirts to make your rent?
Oh yeah, so back in the day, when I say back in the day, we're talking about 94, right, 1994. And so Grace gave me a suggestion. I was about to lose a roommate, we'll say that. And I wanted to keep my 2-bedroom apartment by myself. But I wasn't making enough money on the full-time job. So Grace was like, why don't you do some T-shirts on the side?
Look, I went to a store at Underground Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a hip T-shirt store.
Mm.
And I was a friend of mine had told me about that. He put his artwork in that store. I called Maurice and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do that.
Yeah, so she's like, yo, you should go ahead and create a line of T-shirts. And so,
It was for Dallas Austin store.
well, before it's Dallas Austin store, it was called, so Dallas
It's a
Austin
T.
store was called the Rowdy
The
store.
Rowdy store. That's
So
right.
before it was the Rowdy store, it was called SOTA.
That's right.
And so the guy that owned SOTA was the one who would buy my shirts.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I started this line of shirts. I had some images and I started painting on the shirts directly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took them to SOTA and said, hey, I have these shirts. I'm interested in selling
They were
them.
beautiful.
You know, what do you think? So the guy went through them and everything. He's like, I really like these. I'll take all of these and come back and see me in 2 weeks from now. So I was like, okay. So I would do that. And every 2 weeks, he would have sold out the other shirts. He would restock on new shirts. And so that became a way for me to pay my rent,
Absolutely.
you know, and to keep eating as an artist. I never starved,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so eventually it grew. So it went from that store to a kiosk, another store in Virginia Highlands.
Yeah.
I started shipping stuff to Ohio, and every now and then I get orders from other places, and I would start shipping the T-shirts everywhere. I almost had my shirts in, what's that? Is it called Spiegel?
Yes, the Spiegel calendar.
In the Spiegel
Yeah.
catalog.
Yeah.
Almost. It didn't work out, but almost did, right? And so that's how popular they became. And so it became a challenge to do the shirts and keep my job. I found myself calling in
Right.
and saying I'm sick so I can fill my orders.
Right. And made
For-
more at that than
Right.
you did at the job.
And that's what I'm saying. So I was just like I was telling you earlier, you know, one of the suggestions I would give a young artist, if you're start a hustle, an art hustle, especially if you're working a full-time job that you don't necessarily want to do, get your hustle to make more money than your full time. Make it where you're forced to make a decision on whether I can't do both, right? But I definitely make more money at my hustle. Then it's probably time to go. So that's what happened for me, and eventually I started making more money at the t-shirts, and I decided to go on my own. And so that was one way. But yeah, I learned that from watching Grace, and her sister was doing these t-shirts.
T-shirts, yeah. Because when she was in college, University of Toronto, she used to paint t-shirts, and that's how she made money, extra money for that, painting t-shirts, wheel covers, jean jackets, all that. Yeah.
So in terms of, do you sell more work through galleries or do you sell directly? The both of you.
I sell more work directly,
Me too.
actually.
Hashtag today.
Right. Maurice is like, if they come to the house, they leave it with something.
Yeah.
You just refresh the setting every so often and just trick
No, I
people.
do because I want to see it up.
Yeah.
I want to see the work when it's up. I want to, instead of it stacked up upstairs and I haven't changed it in a while, let me just reset it. Now I get to live with it.
No, you blew my brains out when I walked in today. I was like, whoa,
Yup.
what?
Same.
Jeez, I was not ready. I'm glad you didn't warn me.
Exactly. Yeah.
So back in the day, I know I keep talking about back in the day, but I used to have a van, an Astro van. The Astro van was perfect because I could load it full of art, right? So every now and then I would get a client, especially if it was a client in the area, and sometimes I would drive to other states too.
Yeah.
So every now and then I get a call from somebody saying, "Hey, do you have some art that we can look at?" I'm like, "Yes. Where do you live?" Because my philosophy was, if I get it in your house,
You're just not coming home with
I'm gonna
me.
sell it, right? And so I love when people call me. I said, "Come by the house." Sure. So we load the van up. We go to somebody's house, and they'll look at the piece. Like, yeah, I like this. I like that. I'm like, well, where would you like to hang it? Let's put it up there.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
Right? So you can see,
So-
just so you can see.
Sneaky.
Yeah, so we'll find a spot and we'll put it up to see what it looks like. And they're like, yeah, man, that looks really good. So yeah, And so most of the time that would not come back.
It's true.
You
We've
know?
done that in New Orleans,
Mhm.
like at the end of the show, we're about to leave, and then we're dropping work off at people's places, and they will call their friends, and so literally we're going from house to house or office to office, loading the stuff out and setting it up.
That's fantastic.
We did it in Miami. Remember that lady at the end of the show? We had to drop the work off.
Oh man, it was a terrible show. We did this
It was,
festival
oh yeah, in
Miami, and
yeah.
it was terrible.
Yes,
And this lady came by,
with her little boy.
and she was looking around, and my work was really different then. I had these pieces that were very whimsical looking.
Oh, was it the birdie ones?
No,
No,
these
even
was
more
I'll send you those too.
Yeah.
And so she came by and she's looking at the work. She's like, "Can you guys come by after the show?" We're like, "Sure."
Yeah, to
Yeah.
my house.
So we went by, and I took her some work.
She had bought 2 of my pieces though.
Right.
And so and then she didn't even know you and I were together because
Right.
I was at one end, you were
Right.
at the other.
Right.
Yeah.
And she saw my work, and she's like, "Okay, I want that too." So, as an independent artist, you have to find ways to sell, right? Especially if you don't want to be beholden to a gallery. There's nothing wrong if you want to sell your work to a gallery, but sometimes it doesn't. You and a gallery have conflicts on how to sell and maybe even the split, right? So you may find
Or they
yourself.
don't have the region. They're not in the.
Yeah.
It's a different region
Yeah.
from where they are.
Yeah. Well, again, if you can't agree, sometimes you just got to do it on your own. You got your own vision, you have your work, you see it a certain way, and sometimes you have to dare to do it on your own. And so that's what we did. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, it's not easy, but I prefer it that way, actually.
Yeah.
So,
you get
yeah.
to meet the people who buy your work. A lot of times the gallery will sell it. You don't know who bought the work, but
That's true.
you get to meet firsthand who who bought it. Sometimes you're the one installing it in the place, so you get to see where it's gonna live, and it's mutually beneficial for the collector and the artist to meet and have a conversation. They know directly who you are and what you do, and you get to know them as well. Yeah.
I'm sure it's also really nice for them to speak directly to you
Yes,
as an artist, so you can ask them questions and you can tell them the truth about. It's like, well, the gallerist told me that the orange meant space, and it's like,
Right.
actually, no,
It
it doesn't.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's always fun when you get people who are excited about the work and they can talk to you directly. Because just like you say, you can give them those little details, and they also get to see what else you're working on, what
Yeah.
else you're interested in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because
they
sometimes
can see old pieces.
the
as well.
gallery only has a certain style that they might like, and they only show a limited amount. And then someone comes to your studio and they see the breadth of it, and they're like, "Wow, I didn't
know you did all this.
Let me see. I didn't know you do
Yeah.
woodcuts. I want that woodcut."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the advantage, you know. But nowadays, man, I'm not even jealous. I'm more happy for the younger artists because of the reach. You know, they can reach so many people
Right.
at an instant. You know, I think that's very cool. To
And
be
they
able to
can
do that.
message. They can message anyone and ask if they don't know any. There are platforms where artists will say, "Has anyone come across this? How do I resolve this?" And people are sending all these. So I'm learning as well so easily, and they're across the country. Who do you use to pack? Who do you use to ship? I'm shipping a sculpture this size. Who do you use that's going to not cost me an arm and a leg?
Or be responsible about it.
Yeah.
Yes, and has insurance and is certified. Yeah. Who can I ask to, because there are companies that will drive your work to an exhibition. There's information out there. Whereas before, you'd have to call
Do the
information
research,
or
yeah.
do a whole lot of research
Yeah.
to find them.
Yeah, but back to the business though, you know, at this point, I've seen artists do their own coloring books, which I think is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I love that you can. So they're not necessarily trying to be fine artists per se, but they're good enough to create these images, and they've created a product, and it's very popular because now adults
Adults love coloring books.
love coloring now, right?
You know why? Because it takes them back to
Yeah.
when you were a child. We all were artists.
But
It's
it's
just
also
that
good
people
for
had to,
relaxation.
and various and meditation. All
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Yep. So there's more than one way to make a living as an artist. It doesn't have to be the traditional way. You can be creative and find and make your own way. That's my suggestion, especially right now.
So I think the last thing, where can people go and check out your New Africans exhibition?
At newafricans.com.
That's NUAFRICANS.com.
Go check it out, y'all. Don't sleep on this. It's insane. Thank you, guys.
Talk sure. Some of it is I use Stonehenge paper actually. It's like a printing paper as well, but we've used it to paint on. So this might be some leftover paper from like Somerset paper. Actually.
It's a nice texture.
Yeah, so this actually belongs to somebody in Chicago.
Somebody bought it already.
Just a
Yeah.
Yeah.